Hello guys and welcome to another Horizon 5 with me, Mr. Shmalish. Again, sometimes we'll probably run over 5 minutes in these set of videos. I just need to get them out before you do your paper 2. So today we're looking at 6.1 ethical considerations. Okay. So when you look at ethics in the OCR Business course, the first part is you need to look at what the considerations a business might need to take into account when making decisions. So basically, how they can be ethical or unethical, okay? So I've categorized this into 4 main areas, okay? So let's first look at the treatment of employees, okay? So business will look at the treatment of employees, and to be an ethical business, they need to make sure they are providing safe working conditions, so not making an employee work in an unnecessary, unsafe working condition, abiding by health and safety law and things like that, okay? You see more of these violations in developing countries. Well, I wouldn't say developing countries, but you hear about this when you look at the sort of Apple and iPhone. They've been embroiled in controversy in terms of their phones being made in China, and a lot of their workers work in unsafe working conditions, okay, close to heat and radiation, things like that, okay. So that's one of them, making sure they're safe, making sure they're not working long hours. Again, Apple have been found to be using factories that infringe on these rights, so their workers working like 16 hours a day and sleeping at the factory because they obviously need to make money. Another consideration when you're thinking about employees is making sure you're not discriminating. To be ethical, make sure you're not discriminating on the grounds of race, gender, sexuality, belief, age, disability, so on and so forth. Okay, these are all detailed in the Equality Act 2010. If a business is found to be breaking this, they're obviously breaking the law in that respect. They're also being unethical. And making sure you're paying a fair wage to your employees, okay? Not making sure you obviously pay at least minimum wage, okay? But paying a fair wage for the work involved. Another consideration a business might look at is how they treat their customers, okay? So under that, you shouldn't lie to your customers, okay? It's unethical to lie to your customers or mislead them, okay? An example might be Volkswagen recently. They've been selling cars, diesel cars that had 0 emissions, which obviously would entice customers who would want to buy a car which will benefit the environment or reduce the carbon footprint. 0 emissions is a way of doing that, but obviously it was found out that Volkswagen managed to cheat the system and cheat the tests, so these cars were still quite highly pollutant, is the word, sorry. They were still releasing a lot of carbon dioxide, so they weren't good for the environment basically, but the customers were led to believe they were. Obviously there's a massive lawsuit going on currently, okay. And not discriminating against customers, okay. Again, similar to not discriminating employees, sort of on the grounds of race, gender, belief, sexuality, so on and so forth. Thinking back, a bakery had some really bad press because they discriminated against the gay couple because they didn't want them to buy them a cake for their wedding or something, okay. So that business was actually hounded quite a lot and boycotted by a lot of people because it was like put on social media. So again, you shouldn't discriminate because A, it's wrong, but B, it's going to affect your reputation. We'll talk more about impacts in the different video, okay. So paying suppliers on time is another consideration. Treatment of suppliers, so how are you going to treat your suppliers, okay? So these are the people who supplied products to you, so you need to pay your suppliers on time. Tesco were found recently, a couple of years back, they would withhold payment to their suppliers, so the people they get all the goods from, because it looked better on their profit and loss account, okay? Which also would attract investors, but it's because they weren't paying their suppliers, so it looked like they were making more profit than they actually did. And paying suppliers the correct price, okay? We're not just talking about Tesco, but it's quite well known in the supermarket industry. They don't pay some of their suppliers the correct price, okay? The This is why the introduction of fair trade is being put into place. And it's not just suppliers from other countries, it's suppliers in this country as well. For example, dairy farmers don't make a lot of money because Tesco squeezed the price down so low it's not, they're not making any money and they're finding it really hard to survive. I think that's changing for the better now. Another consideration is the sourcing of materials, so where you're going to get your materials to make your product. So if you're, let's say, Primark and you source your clothes from third world countries because they make it there, you need to make sure you're not using child labour, okay? So child labour of any kind, okay, can never really be justified because the children, they shouldn't really have to work the same as adults. And not using suppliers that exploit chemicals, okay? So a lot of times these businesses use, they go for a third person, they'll have factories in, let's say, going back to Primark, factories in China, India, so on and so forth. They aren't owned by Primark per se, but Primark are contracting out to businesses who will make these things, and these suppliers might exploit workers. So they might make them work long hours, might discriminate, and might not be safe conditions, might be using child labour, so on and so forth, okay? So when a business wants to be ethical, or they should all be ethical, I should say, they need to consider not only just one, but quite a few of these considerations when engaging in their business practices, because all these considerations will impact a business in a particular way, which we'll talk about in the next video. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.